Not to be one of those people who tells you what to do with your money or acts like you got millions in the bank, but is there any way you could save the Intercept law? No. Are you guys crazy? Bro, the guy who founded the company is Pierre Omidyar. Do you know how much money he had when he built it? The guy who built the company, Pierre Omidyar, is a billionaire, okay? With a B. With the second letter in the alphabet. Just don't misunderstand me. It is not a millionaire with an M. A billionaire with a B. Like, we're talking about a company losing $300,000 a month. And it's on track to have a balance of less than $1 million by November and could be completely out of cash by May 2025. If you think I had any capacity to be able to pay for this, it is pretty funny. Like, people buy Chapo Trap House, my dude, my guy. Yeah, I bought a house instead of the Intercept. Like, yeah, I don't think even gambling streamers would be able to fund this shit. And also, I don't think they would do that anyway. The Chapo lads could probably buy you. I want them to. If you take out a reverse mortgage, you can keep them afloat for like 6 months. Okay, but what do I do after that? Then I'm underwater. Be broke, I guess. Okay. By the way, the same guys I just said felt some type of way about me watching you said you're brainwashing me now. Yeah, classic. The problem is there is no way to keep journalism afloat unless you are in the pocket of the wealthy. And no, I don't mean the wealthy like me. I mean the actually wealthy. Okay? Like, Pierre Omidyar is a fucking billionaire. And this was his own personal project. He really liked Jeremy Scahill, which I love as well. He really liked Glenn Greenwald, and he wanted to do investigative reporting. The problem, however, is that when you do really good investigative reporting, you're going to ruffle a lot of feathers. So I suspect that Pierre Omidyar probably got a bunch of fucking phone calls, because there's no way to have an outlet like this. There's no way to have an outlet like this unless you are operating on a fucking skeleton budget, okay? And you are almost entirely fan funded, like Democracy Now!, right? And even then you can't do it. And the reality is you can't have world superstar journalists on a fucking ascetic skeleton budget. You just can't do that. So there is no genuine incentive for anyone to operate a company like this. Like, great story here. The Intercept, one of the U.S.'s leading leftist publications, was funded by a tech billionaire. This is true. Once he stopped sending cash, the magazine couldn't make any money, and its reporters began struggling for power and knifing each other. Decades from now, we tell the story of how America calmed down after the unrest of the 2010. Stories like be a key part of history. I don't know why this guy is still doing the fucking, like, Fukuyama, is that his name? Like, history died shit. Like, history is over. Like, we're living in the end of history. Like, we're just going to calm down and go back to neoliberalism. Like, a dude who just legitimately doesn't understand how unimaginably unstable the world around him is, and is like desperately writing articles to make it seem as though it is totally fucking stable and neoliberalism is working. Anyway, newspapers, especially ones that are doing phenomenal work, are not valuable for the billionaires, and they can't succeed, they can't exist without omega wealthy people keeping them afloat. That's it. That's it. That's it. The only places that are actually in the green are the Axios, the Politicos of the world. Why are they in the green? Well, they're in the green because they get a shit ton of donors from Chevron, Exxon, BP, all the big places give these center-right publications like Axios, center-right publications like Politico, a shit ton of money. That's why if you are subscribed to the Politico newsletter, like I am, you will see every fucking day, it will say, like, in the header, this newsletter is sponsored by Chevron. This newsletter is sponsored by Raytheon. So that's it. The problem is you cannot have a sustainable media operation if you don't have a shit ton of corporate mega donor sponsors. That's it. That's just the unfortunate reality. So what do we do? Because the New York Times, as much as I am very critical of them, the New York Times still does phenomenal reporting. They are a necessity. Sponsor it. Yes, dude. I know. I am single-handedly going to keep this operation going, even though they lose more money than I make. I am somehow going to keep this alive. You're right. The problem is, The Intercept was born a decade ago in a very different moment for media and politics. Two of its founders, Glenn Greenwald and Laura Poitras, broke the story of Edward Snowden's leaked surveillance files in 2013, which reshaped how Americans thought about the government and their privacy. Omidyar, a leftish billionaire with no known appetite for political combat, rapidly pledged deep support for an organization that would combine the anti-establishment mission with a combative form of online journalism born out of Gawker Media. The problem, however, is that when you're a billionaire, there is no reason to open up. When you're a billionaire, there's no reason to open up fights with other fucking billionaires, especially when like everyone you know and your own class interest goes against combative investigative reporting. People think you make real money like the Bolshevik Party did by robbing government bank wagons, lol. Yeah. There is no world in which you can be a unironic leftist billionaire. There are people who are descendants of billionaires, like trust fund kids, who try to use their trust fund for leftist causes, who are anti-capitalist. But ultimately, it's just not, it is antithetical to their way of existence, to the way that they make money. Why the fuck would they do that? Why would they cook themselves? A decade later, American politics are almost unrecognizable. Greenwald quit in fury to make chaotic allies on the right. Liberal donors have lost their taste for the party infighting, and the specter of Donald Trump looms, while voices further left are promising to punish Joe Biden over his response in Gaza. Those factors frame a crisis that comes even... By the way, the irony is Semaphore is an outlet exactly like The Intercept. A lot of great journalists. They hired a bunch of great journalists. Don't know how they're going to make it work. But this is an operation that is like not... It's not that different from, I guess, The Intercept. They don't do like super hardcore investigative reporting that like tackles the State Department. That is the worst part. That is the biggest no-no in this country. The biggest no-no in this country is like is doing real investigative reporting, not on like, domestic issues, but actually on foreign policy. That's the major role that The Intercept played. Anyway, The Intercept has broken stories about American diplomatic cables, warning of a catastrophic Israeli invasion of Rafah, infighting in the philanthropic world, and the tensions on campuses, in art galleries, and inside U.S. newsrooms over the war in Gaza. It has picked fights with the New York Times and become a home for the harshly anti-Israel voices rarely seen in U.S. media. That part is true. Like their reporting on the Screams Without Violence was incredible, and they haven't stopped, and they're still doing phenomenal work. Problem is, yesterday my dad called me a Hamas hole because I told him Israel doesn't have a right to cut off water and electricity in Gaza. Why do we have cringe dads? How do we arrive at an era where, like, I guess that's like millennial parenting, like Hamas hole? The fuck? I'm sorry about your dad, Chatter. But tensions between the outlet Star reporters, his founders, and his 4-person nonprofit board are threatening to unravel it. Many of the Intercept journalists direct their ire at Chabelle, a long-time nonprofit executive. Chabelle joined the Intercept at a transition moment for the organization in 2022. First Look Media had offered a $12 million grant to help the publication spin off, about half of what the Intercept leaders had asked for. Publications editor-in-chief Roger D. Hodge said he told the organization's board that he did not believe the grant was enough, and they should wind down the Intercept and give staff as a generous severance package as possible. Chabelle, who had initially joined the organization as a consultant to manage the expenses of oversee the spinoff, helped convince First Look Media to up its grant to $14 million and presented what appeared to be a financial path forward for the organization. When staffers convened in October last year for a meeting at the organization's New York offices, its leadership had what staff interpreted as good news. Now the organization's CEO, Chabelle, overseeing the new financial support model, which would rely on both small dollar donors and major gifts from philanthropic individuals and organizations. While she wouldn't commit during the meeting to not laying off staff in the future, Chabelle told employees that the organization was stable and appeared to be on target to meet its fundraising goals. Honestly, I think you failed to consider the arc of history, and especially economics varies by generation. Most notably, the top of the hour ad break is inbound. I don't know. Wait, what? No, this is the half hour mark. You're wrong about that. It's anyway. But yeah, editorially, world events have reinvigorated The Intercept and given it its renewed purpose. Progressive publications' disdain of Israeli military action and sympathy for the Palestinians distinguished it early in the Gaza war from many major American news outlets, and its distance from the democratic establishment helped it break a number of stories about the rift within media organizations, liberal politics, and the art world over both U.S. domestic issues and Israel's military operations in Gaza. It's so sad, dude. A lot of my friends that I have had the fortune to work with, that I have the fortune to call my peers, people that I've looked up to, that were very influential in my development, in my upbringing, people like Jeremy Scahill, of course, or friends like Ryan Grimm and Ken Klippenstein, who I urged Cenk to hire back in the day because I thought he was awesome. These guys, you know, they all work at The Intercept. They do phenomenal reporting. And it is very sad to see an outlet that actually does. Ida Chavez, another great. There's so many. Akilah Lacey, right? I think she was at The Intercept as well. I love The Intercept's entire lineup. They're all phenomenal. Problem is, you just gotta, I don't know. You just have to dial it back, I guess. Like, these organizations can only work with, Prem Takar is great as well. Did Assam pull an I made you? No, I did not. Like, I'm a commentator, okay? I don't do shit. I don't make news stories. I don't do investigative reporting. I don't do reporting at all, right? I need reporting so I can do commentary. So it's a major issue when we are, fundraiser for The Intercept is such a funny take. It's like, no, dude, we can't do a fundraiser for The Intercept. We cannot save The Intercept personally. This community cannot do that. Okay, you're insane. They need to do internal restructuring and figure it out amongst themselves. You're talking about an institution that was like established by a billionaire, okay? But while the scoops yield a small dollar donations, the organization's leadership struggled to find big money needed to keep it operating. Privately, the executives acknowledged while philanthropic donations had doubled between 2022 and 2023 from 488,000 to 867,000, they still had fallen short. In February, the publication laid off 30% of its editorial staff. It also fired Hodge. The relationship between the then editor-in-chief and Chabelle had been deteriorating for months after Hodge told Chabelle that he would not lay off any more staff. Two sources told Semaphore she was also frustrated by his lack of enthusiasm for working more closely with the business side. Chabelle raised their concerns to the organization's board of directors. There you go. It is always the same fucking attitude. He said, I'm in danger. So, yeah, it's it's the never-ending power dynamic between actual combative journalism, which is a necessity. It's a fundamental plank of real democracy, true democracy, right? Is having an educated populace make educated decisions. And the only way they can be completely educated on the matter is if there is like actual legitimate combative journalism happening, investigative reporting happening. And investigative reporting is always going to ruffle feathers, is always going to disrupt the existing hierarchical standards. And that is the reason why you see the likes of Ben Shapiro at the Daily Wire raking in a gorillion fucking dollars, while real investigative reporting, on the other hand, and those from, those from the likes of The Intercept, they're having a very hard time. That's just what it is. It is what it is. But the reality is, even the New York Times is having a hard time, like with its finances. So, like, reporting in general is difficult to make work under capitalism without like a shit ton of grants. Okay. Anyway, is the Dersh pulling his support for the Democratic Party because of Biden's refusal to start a war with Iran? Do you think it has significant impact on his reelection chances? Oh no. The Dersh, well, people saying we don't need the New York Times are crazy, dude. You do need the New York Times. Guys, that's an insane take. Please stop. There is a reason why I rely on the New York Times and Washington Post all the fucking time. The Associated Press all the time. Okay? Please. These are incredibly important parts of American society. You need knowledgeable reporters who know what the fuck they're writing about to fly out directly to places of conflict and do real reporting. That is insane. Even if these institutions have biases, and they certainly do, and a big part of my commentary revolves around parsing through said biases, they are still incredibly important. They have to exist. I don't need the New York Times, just Marx and my moots. Like, thinking that you don't need new reporting to be happening is kind of crazy, I'll be honest. Like, you always need more reporting. Things are still happening. You know what I mean? Things are still fucking happening in the world, and you need to know when those things are happening, right? Even if the New York Times is like very, very biased and very frustrating in general in how biased they are, especially as it pertains to doing propaganda for the State Department, they are still a profoundly important. They're still a profoundly important institution, and there are some phenomenal journalists there. Okay, still. All right. Now let's talk about Israel first. Israel is weighing on a response to the attacks by Iran. We're going to be talking about that, obviously. So, and how horny the right is for war, and how restrained, I guess, the State Department has been kind of. There is some confusion in the commentary. It is actually the first time I have seen a consistent contextualization of why a foreign adversary attacked an ally. I have never seen that in the news ever in my entire life. Okay? I have never seen that in the news ever. The fact that they are still saying that Iran is retaliating as a consequence of the embassy attack is kind of wild. It has almost become a party split. People that want to nuke Iran are predominantly on the Republican Party, not realizing the consequences of such an action. And then there are still calls for restraint from the Democratic Party. It is wild. It is actually shocking. I am confused as to how we got here. The Democrats normally absolutely love the notion of more American war. I think part of it is because of how far Israel has gone. The more restrained voices that are interested in dialing Israel's actions back purely from a pragmatic State Department attitude, not because they care about the lives and not because they're worried about the human toll if there is a broader conflict, but simply pragmatically approaching the situation with a pragmatic interest in self-preservation, are being more restrained in their conversations in the way that they're talking about Israel. Now, is that real? Like the Democratic Party and Joe Biden saying, if Israel tries to retaliate against Iran, we will not participate in an offensive campaign. Now, is that real? I don't know. If Israel retaliates to Iran and actually hits Iran on Iranian soil, what Iran will do as a retaliation back with a great escalation in that front, will America defend Israel? Yes, I do believe that. Will America be drawn into war if they do not hold Israel back. Yes. That's what I think. And yet, people are still championing this notion that we have to fucking blow up Iranian soil, Iranian positions, on especially the Republican side of the equation. Let's hear what the news media is covering.
Morning, new details about Iran's unprecedented attack on Israel, launching more than 100.
Shapiro claims USA allowed Iran to retaliate to save face. He's right. He's right. I don't think I can't believe I'm saying this. I don't think Ben Shapiro is wrong. He is 100% correct on that. Actions have consequences. That's why it all came from Iran. I think that Israel's embassy attack was genuinely unacceptable and unprovoked. Israel thought that they could get away with murking some IRGC officials on Iranian soil, thinking that potentially they could also get America on board. Israel has shot at and assassinated Iranian nuclear scientists and things of that nature time and time again. But that's a little bit different because when Israel does that on the off season, nobody's paying attention to Israel. But when all eyes are on Israel because it's the fucking playoffs, you can't really do that. Okay? So, when Israel did that without giving prior go-ahead or without getting prior confirmation from the American state, when they hit the Iranian soil without telling America and only giving them like a 5-minute warning or something, that was a genuinely fucked up move that escalated the conflict because Israel is belligerent. Israel is not only a genocidal apartheid state, but it's also belligerent in the way that it is swinging wildly at any and every regional actor, trying to open up new fronts in the war with a desperate interest in preserving not just like Israel as a legacy, Israel as a country or anything, but simply Benjamin Netanyahu's political career so he doesn't go to fucking jail. Now, that was a big fuck up from Israel. So, something had to happen. Under international law, Iran did have a right to retaliate. Iranian sovereignty was violated. This is a major breach of international law. So, Iran, for weeks, because this happened 2 weeks ago, Iran, for weeks, in the first week, expected the UN Security Council to condemn Israel for its embassy attack and violating Iranian sovereignty and punish the perpetrators of the actions. Of course, the UN Security Council didn't do that. America only seemingly was upset that Israel had not told them before doing this attack and not necessarily condemn the attack in and of itself, even though it did violate international law. It did violate Iranian sovereignty. You can't do that. And potentially open up a new front in the war. So some kind of retaliation had to happen. It had to take place. You can't have all those fucking weapons and defense systems if you're not going to use them, right? Especially if Israel only responds to force. Israel only responds to actual appropriate use of force. So, Iran signaled that they would do a counterattack. Iranian envoys, bro, do you hear what you were saying? You're justifying Iran launching 400 rockets at Israel? No, my friend, I'm wearing my big boy pants and talking to you about how foreign policy works. I hope you can understand it without freaking out at me. I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just simply telling you it is the thing, okay? So, I hope you can stick around and completely understand what I'm saying here without, pissing your pants and shitting in your diapers. Okay? Now, this is very important to comprehend. Why is it very important to comprehend? Because a retaliation from Iran would be a win-win for all parties involved, especially if it was a relatively restrained retaliation. Okay? Going after sites, going after military sites and not like urban areas directly. Now, you might have seen, if you live in Israel, you probably saw rockets fly over your head, but those rockets were still aimed at not dense urban areas, but instead military, desert military outposts. This is not my assessment of the situation. I am simply reporting to you what I have seen from mainstream media. If you listen to NPR, if you listen to the New York Times Daily, they do a phenomenal job with this, which was shocking because normally you don't expect the New York Times Daily to do a phenomenal job on foreign policy, especially on foreign policy where we have a big bad foreign adversary in Iran fighting against a big good foreign ally like Israel, right? So it is genuinely shocking to see the New York Times Daily and to hear Mike Barbaro's beautiful voice over those airwaves talking about how, like, yeah, I mean, this was a retaliatory attack and it was restrained in general. So Iran waited for 2 weeks, demanded some kind of answers from the international community that never came. Then Iran said, okay, well, we're going to retaliate to Israel, as is within our right to do so. Now, of course, doing that under normal circumstances it would require no communication whatsoever. But because Iran did not want to, as far as I understand, because Iran did not want to, max out on the damage, but instead simply make a theatrical somewhat or a political posture against the state of Israel for violating its sovereignty, they chose to communicate by way of mediators like Turkey, a NATO nation, and warn 72 hours ahead of time that they were going to be hitting certain military targets. Okay? That's it. If you're confused by this process about what happened over this weekend, that is what happened. Okay? It's interesting because it's like, oh, if Iran is like simply interested in like maxing out the damage and killing everyone in Israel, all the KKK colonizers in Israel proper, well, then why are they actually informing 72 hours ahead of time that like in the next 72 hours, we are going to be launching missiles? If they're interested in maxing out damage, why are they not sending more ballistics and more cruise missiles that are harder to intercept than the hundreds of drones that they sent in that was relatively cheap? Why didn't they use their missile systems that actually can go faster than that can break the sound barrier? They don't have that tech. What do you mean they don't have that tech? The way that this works is the way that this works in under international law in foreign politics is if you inform ahead of time that you're going to bomb a certain location, and America does this with Russia as well, for the record, because big countries, especially sometimes nuclear countries, not saying that Iran has nukes, I don't know that, will oftentimes inform ahead of time their adversaries exactly when their retaliation is going to happen and exactly how that retaliation is going to happen. That communication not existing is what I guess like makes an act of terror versus like a state act, I would say. Yes, Nick King is correct. It is called deconfliction. Well, deconfliction is another thing. Deconfliction happens in times of war when you are mapping out your air force. Israel does it as well. Yes. Obviously, Israel doesn't do it for Gaza because Gaza is an occupied area. Anyway, David Cameron was asked what the UK could do if their consulate was obliterated. That's awesome. So I think that Iran gave the U.S. and others in the region 72 hours notice in the attack, allowing them largely to thwart it. It could have been much worse if they didn't fire in waves and if they timed the missiles with the drones. They could have done a full surprise attack with hypersonics. Like they didn't showcase any of their newer weapons capabilities. They used weapons that Israel was very knowledgeable on, and that's why they were very successful in thwarting those attacks, both because of the Era 2 system, the Era 3 system, and also obviously the Iron Dome, which is Tamir interceptors, as you guys know. And on top of that, you had Central Command, allied coalition forces flying over Syrian airspace, flying over airspace in Jordan, also intercepting some of those cruise missiles. And they did a remarkable job at it. That is the reality. So it's just, this is just political posturing. Hassan, why are you a dick rider for Iran? Are you trying to do a top of the hour ad break debate? Is that what's going on? Or are you just simply saying that I'm dick riding Iran for not just saying that, like, yeah, oh, you are doing a top of the hour ad break debate. Got it. Because the reality is, if they were interested, I mean, at the top of the hour, the reality is that there is a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. That is the reality. You can do that for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. Okay. You can defend yourself. It's kind of like the Iron Dome, very successful. If the 3-minute ad break is about to hit you, you can just subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime, or you can get gifted a sub, like the Central Command and Coalition Forces can like offer you, pepper you a gifted sub if you're lucky. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. So, yeah, as much as Israel fucking sucks so hard, the Iron Dome is kind of fucking sick. Yeah, it is dope. It is a technological marvel. It is phenomenal. I can't help but, I mean, I'm not going to fucking sit here and lie. Israel's defenses are insane, okay? It is crazy. It is insane. It sucks that, like, it is a fundamental plank in defending an apartheid regime. It's really not. Yes, it is, dude. Are you kidding me? Come on. Come on. Did the U.S. build it or Israel alone? No, of course the U.S. built it. What do you mean? It's our tech. It is not impenetrable, but it doesn't matter. It's still fucking phenomenal work. Come on, guys. Be for real. Be for fucking real. Look at a country that doesn't have the Iron Dome, Ukraine. Okay? Which is pretty crazy, by the way. Never has a man been as cucked as Volodymyr Zelensky. Never has a man been as cucked as this motherfucker who literally was like, yeah, Russia is behaving like Iran against Israel. We're just like Israel. And it's like, you're such a fucking idiot, dude. Benjamin Netanyahu literally blocked the Iron Dome. He said it was a non-starter. Benjamin Netanyahu said sending the Iron Dome to Ukraine would be a non-starter. You know who would have needed an Iron Dome more than Israel? Motherfucking Ukraine, dog. He did that because he's in the pocket of Vladipoo, because he's homies with Vladimir Putin. Remember that. Remember that. The most cucked man on the fucking planet, dude. Iron Dome has a very limited range, 50 miles, and is made for tiny rockets and artillery shells. What do you think Russia uses? What are you talking about? I mean, I'm sure there's like, where first of all, Russia uses a litany of different weapons in Ukraine. This would eliminate some of the, this would be this would help out a lot. Is the whole point. Who the fuck is he to have a say in this? Yeah. Chat really tries the shit on anything. It's so funny because I've talked about like the validity of sending Iron Dome defense systems to Ukraine for a very long time. No matter how hard the fucking NATO Andes freak out about it, about how like I'm actually pushing Z, I've been saying this from the jump, that it is fucking ridiculous not to allow Ukraine to have an Iron Dome. I think it is perfectly valid for Ukraine to have Iron Dome, anti-artillery, anti-fucking missile systems. Ridiculous. When you say it, I keep thinking you're being sarcastic. No. Well, I'm not sarcastic when I say give Palestine an Iron Dome as well. You know? Now, this wouldn't have been like this would not have been the winner. Like this would not have like changed the battle dramatically, but it certainly would have allowed more less civilian casualties. That's my point. Anyway, Israel is really that guy who you will talk about some traumatic event in your life, will look at you and try to take something smaller and make it sound way worse. That's funny. Anyway, also would have made Russia reconsider investing in drones. Yeah. So that's the situation. That's the situation with like Zelensky. It's very silly. Size of the country is a big difference. Yeah, but you're right about that for sure. Israel's much smaller as a nation than Ukraine. Ukraine is fucking massive, but you can still fucking plant it in like Lviv, Kiev, and many other places like civilian dense areas. You know what I mean? It would still be helpful. My point is, it'd still be helpful. It would be helpful. There is no reason not to give them the Iron Dome. And the reasoning that Netanyahu gave was, oh, it could land in the hands of Hamas. It could land in the hands of Iran. And we cannot allow Iran to learn about the Iron Dome. IDF TikToker on ironically doing Israel just small
It's
bean.
2:45 in the morning and we're still up because Iran has launched hundreds of ballistic
Iran. Bro, you're in... Dude, this is so funny. Bro, you're in Israel. What do you mean Iran? She said Iran like she's from fucking Alabama.
missiles towards Israel. And they take hours to come, so it's a bit of a waiting game. And I just turned to the person next to me and I said, doesn't this like kind of just like make you believe in God? Because we're so small. We're a tiny country. We're not that important. Can y'all just like stop hating us? Like just like for 5 seconds?
Bro, what do you mean? Like, do you think this just happened? How could you be so oblivious to why this is occurring? Like, you got to be shocked and confused all the time if you are just like the average Israeli citizen. I guess you just don't have access to the news. Like 2 weeks prior, Israel strikes a fucking embassy and you're like, yeah, that was sick actually. We fucking did that shit, not recognizing that it's like it's foreign soil. Like, what do you mean? Oh, we're just a small bean. Well, why did you do that then? Why'd you do the thing? Not you, but like, why does your country do the thing? I just don't get it. Like, how do you not see that? And it's funny because like my expectation is I do this in America every fucking day of the week. I do this in America nonstop. I talk about this stuff in America all the time. We do shit all around the world. We destabilize the world and then it comes back to haunt us. And I'm like, yeah, dude, well, we fucked around and we found out. Like, what did you think was happening? And people hate me for that all the time. But when it comes to Israel, God forbid I have a similar attitude. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You can't do that. We're always the victims. We're permanently the victims. It's weird, man. This is no different than they hate us because they ain't us, okay? But in like a Gen Z version of that, okay? This is the Gen Z version of the Steven Crowder take that I've heard a million times over.
No, you can't. You know why you can't? Because anti-Semitism is biblical. Because it's divine. Because it reminds us that we only have each other and our commitment to our Jewish values. In the end, that's what's going to make us stronger. So thank you, Iran.
It's like, yeah, dude, it's anti-Semitism that is like leading Iran to fucking launch, but not so much anti-Semitism that they gave a 72-hour warning. You know what I mean? Like they have a balanced level of anti-Semitism. Once the anti-Semitism levels from the fucking mullahs reach a certain point, then they won't give warnings. You know what I mean? Like, what an insane way to go about your life. What an insane way to operate. You're young enough that you can definitely see the truth. Okay? You have to be able to see it. I just don't. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the mullahs are operating at 75% anti-Semitism. God forbid they got to 100%, in which case they will not be. They will be starting to use the hypersonic missiles or whatever, the ones that break the sound barrier, and they won't actually give a 72-hour notice. It's like the level of anti-Semitism is entirely dependent. I don't know. I don't know. Hey, Israel, in a couple days, we're going to get really anti-Semitic. Yeah, that's it. That's the whole point. 72 hours in a specific UN article where it explained why they have the right to retaliate. Yeah, it's just that's what they're doing. What do you say to Israelis that say Palestinians fucked around and found out? I say to them to find God, okay? That's what I say. I say to them that is a ridiculous fucking attitude, because it's the exact same attitude of saying October 7 is Israel's fucking around and finding out moment. And that seems like an unconscionable thing to say. It seems like a gross thing to say. Israel has been operating an apartheid regime for 75 fucking years. Of course, it was going to like inevitably be a problem for Israeli citizens. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous that you just think that hitting that same exact note over and over again and then retaliating in kind and only increasing the fucking brutality is going to somehow fix the problem. It's not. I don't know. It's just fascist dynamics. It's constantly being like, yeah, we're just the victims of every story. We're the victims nonstop. It's crazy. It's crazy how much we are always the victims and in the right. Stop doing the Arabs are Semites too shit, please. I don't fucking care. Nobody uses anti-Semitism to talk about Arabs. It is one of the dumbest fucking arguments of all time. I apologize if your Arab grandfather likes using it, but like it is straight up one of the stupidest fucking most pedantic arguments of all time. Absolutely zero people give a fuck about it, okay? Colloquially, that is not how the language works. Nobody fucking cares, okay? Stop. I disagree. Okay, keep fucking arguing on that front then, dumb fuck. How can Arabs be anti-Semitic? They're also Semitic people too. It's like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut the fuck up, okay? Okay, anti-Jew then. Is that better? Because that's what people mean when they say anti-Semitic. Is that fine? It makes me so annoyed. Fresh and Fit literally used it against Ethan. That's how dumb it is. Yeah, I hate that. I hate that argument. Hey, we found the cholesterol spike. Yeah, that's how it works.
Thank you, TikTok comments. Thank you, everyone trying to bring us down. It only brings us up in the end. Amisha freaking Kai! We still didn't go to the...
Okay. Isn't denying Arab identity anti-Semitic though? Oh my God. No, dude. No, it's not. You want to know why? Because anti-Semitism colloquially is talking about anti-Jewish, okay? It is anti-Semitism is not used to imply that like Arabs are considered Semite people, Semitic people in the current understanding of the word. It doesn't fucking matter. Is it true that LA Persians are pro-Israel? Don't even get me started. Why are you minimizing Arab hatred? I'm literally a Semite. Oh my God. 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 We're done. We're moving on. We're fucking moving on from this conversation. It is one of the most idiotic versions of this. You get anti-Arab sentiment, you get Islamophobia, which is racialized inherently, but you're never going to be able to fucking arrive at a situation where people understand what the fuck you're trying to say. It is called the etymological fallacy. Words don't literally mean the sum of their roots. Thank you. It is so goddamn pedantic, and people get like hyper focused on the aesthetics of a conversation and just can't give up on something, okay? Anyway, this is not aesthetics. It 100% is aesthetics. It literally is aesthetics. It's just a pedantic argument. It's just you're hyper focusing on like, it is literally the same shit that Kanye does, where he's like, oh, as a black Israelite, like, I am Jew, you know what I mean? Or whatever the fuck he says. So I can't be anti-Semitic. I'm a Semitic person. And then you see like 1,000 TikTok videos from the most conspiracy brain broken people, like looking at the dictionary and being like, technically Kanye was right, actually. And it's like, I want to fucking video game myself. I want I want to stand underneath one of these like Iranian drone strikes when I fucking see the 7,000 argument about it, because it's just so irrelevant to the main point of contention. Israel is doing a fucking ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza. Israel is an apartheid regime, okay? And when people say something is anti-Semitic, they mean anti-Jew, okay? They do not mean whatever the fuck you think it means, okay? You're missing the forest for the trees. And it's such a weird fucking thing to hyper focus on unless you are deliberately trying to derail the conversation to an unproductive place for, you know, malicious, narcissistic purpose. Here.
Ballistic missiles and swarms of drones, a larger attack than expected, in retaliation for an airstrike that killed 2 Iranian generals in Syria this month. A senior U.S. official so surprised at the number of missiles in this weekend's attack that his hand was trembling as he took notes.
3 over here. You can see that rocket flying up in the sky just over Jerusalem here now. It's just raining rockets with those sirens blaring out. You can hear the interceptions every few seconds here.
Overnight, ABC News confirmed at least half of those Iranian missiles either failed to launch, failed in flight, or crashed before reaching their targets in Israel. Israel says 99% of the drones and missiles ended up being intercepted by Israeli, U.S., and coalition forces. Those that did hit caused minor damage at an Israeli airbase and left a young girl critically wounded from missile shrapnel.
Well, Tehran's massive attack has largely been a failure. A senior official saying that Iran's intent was clearly to be highly destructive, causing significant damage and death in Israel.
Now, attention turns to whether Israel will respond. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meeting with his war cabinet yesterday. One member saying Israel would act in the manner and time that is appropriate for us. His war cabinet reportedly supports retaliating against Iran, but is divided over the timing and scale. U.S. officials, while emphasizing Israel's right to defend itself, say the U.S. will not participate in any counterstrike. Sources say President Biden has urged Netanyahu to slow things down and think carefully about the risk of escalation. Biden's call for restraint drawing some criticism on both sides of.
But you are anti-Semitic? You are an anti-Semitic because you didn't give equal denunciation to Iran's attack on Israel? Wait, what? What do you... I don't understand what you mean. What do you want from me? You are anti-Semitic? No other truth. Impeccable warrior. What is happening? They're on a saga account? Yeah, I'm trying to understand like what they want. You have to equally attack both Iran and Israel? Wait, what? What do you mean? Listen, big dog. If Iran out of nowhere opened up fire on a fucking Israeli embassy and then Israel struck back, that's valid. Okay? That's how it works. That's how life in the big city works, okay? Israel is not a occupier of Iranian territories in the same way that it is of Gaza. Israel does not have a right to, under international law, defend itself against the Palestinian population because it's a belligerent occupier of the Palestinian population. It technically, under international law, needs to fucking defend the livelihoods of Palestinian civilians, which it does not. There's a lot of you aren't denouncing or condemning Iran on Twitter. Good luck, have fun. It's nutty. Israel's our chosen people for a reason. Why defend Iran but attack Israel 24/7? You can't play one side and support the other. I don't think you understand. Okay? I don't think you understand this at all. There are only 7 million versus 1.4 billion Muslims. First of all, there are 14 million Jews, not 7 million, unless you think that only is the Israeli population is what matters at this point. I love that. I love the notion that this guy isn't like even a supremacist, like a Judeo-supremacist, but an Israeli supremacist. Like he just moved beyond, like as though, 7 million Israelis, okay, 7 million Israeli Jews, 1.4 billion Muslims in the world. Like as though these guys are like always at fucking war with one another. That's pretty cool though. Israel needs to expand to gain more power. Otherwise we will always be weak. Oh, that's awesome. I can't tell if you're like just trying to make Israeli people look bad or something. I don't know, or if this is like a genuine opinion that you hold, because you are not doing a good job defending anything. He thinks it's a paradox grand strategy game. I speak the truth. Got it. Yeah, that's a genuine opinion. I can feel it. This chatter is not real. You can be racist, but not this racist. Yes, no, you can be that racist. Zionism, especially in its like modern understanding of the project, is 100% fascist. This is a perfect demonstration of ultra Zionist sentiment. Okay, it's Lebensraum. It's the chosen people narrative. Like, it is 100% just a hype. It's an ultra nationalistic. It is an ultra nationalistic fascist ideology. That's it. Just explain it to the poor lad. I don't think I'll be able to explain away him from his days, from the opinion that he has. That chatter is for sure a settler, like a bird stuck inside a Costco. They're not going anywhere. Yeah. Lots of young Israeli people really view things this way. Trust me, I know from experience. Yeah, my heart goes out to my my Israeli leftist chatters. Okay, I know it's. Listen, I live in America. Okay, it's not as bad as it is in Israel in some respects, because like the war that we do is overseas for the most part. Our domestic colonial, our domestic fascist actions are oftentimes against minorities. So, you know, I get it. I know what it's like to be a fucking leftist in like a hyper militant, very fascist country. But it's, of course, Israel is much, much more advanced in its racist politics. But I get it. I to a certain degree, I can empathize with the feeling of isolation that you experience from your peers when you see some of them speak in the way that they do, and you're like, this is unconscionable. These are unconscionable things that you are saying. I get it from the hyper militant attitudes that I grew up with in Turkey, that I saw in Turkey, which I think is like ultra nationalism. Its ultra nationalism is a little bit closer to the Israeli ultra nationalism in some respects, culturally. Genocide denial being a fundamental plank of like the Turkish education structure. I get it when I think about it from the perspective of like growing up in America, or rather living in America now for the past 10 years, and seeing my peers have what attitudes that I would consider fascist, like straight up. It sucks. It is a weird situation. You get isolated. You have a feeling of isolation when you hear so many of your friends and so many people that you know say like unconscionable, incredibly violent, and oftentimes self-defeating things. You are all dumb. They're attacking Israel so that Iran can declare itself a nuclear state once Israel attacks. Years of consuming political content, and you still can't figure it out. XD, I'm a better political analyst than you. Your chat should subscribe to me. What? Your chat should subscribe to me instead of you? On second thought, don't sub to me, as they like being abused by Hassan. That's awesome. Anyway, that was fucking dope. Thank you, chatter. But yeah, the Iranian situation is obviously political posturing, and it was like somewhat of a controlled response. It sounds insane to say when you, depending on your perspective on the matter, but yeah, it is controlled response. It was calculated. It was controlled. It was communicated through mediators to Israel and to America as well. Iran also said that they weren't going to touch America. They were only going to attack Israel for specifically the consulate bombing. That's it. That's the whole point. Iran wanted to say, you can't get away with fucking killing our generals in a goddamn embassy that is technically our soil. That is ridiculous. And America was like, all right, well, this is what we're going to do. Now, the point here, the reason why I say, like, is this World War III? Will this turn into something much larger? Well, only time will tell, because if Israel then continues and Israel still continues and says like, no, we are going to retaliate to Iran, and not through proxies, not through like some Syrian fucking We're not going to just like hit Syrian targets where there's like, military locations where there's some IRGC proxies or whatever. But instead, we're going to directly hit fucking Iranian soil. Then it's bedlam. This is just how things have been in the Second Intifada and this 1,000-year Netanyahu rule. Even for secular Jews in Israel, you grow to believe God doesn't exist, but he gave us this land. I know y'all experience stuff like this every day. It's just in Israel. It's ubiquitous in ways I haven't seen almost anywhere else. Yeah. Well, it's a small country. It needs desperately to do like a shit ton of fascist propaganda that dehumanizes Palestinians. It needs to tackle every fucking angle in order to continue in the violent ways that it does. I'm Israeli and I'm just tired of all this mess around here. Once I get my chemical engineering degree, I'm out of here. Probably I'll come to USA. Which area you say is best to live in the US, Hassan? Bro, the US has its own litany of problems too. It does. I don't even fucking know because it's just so expensive. Ohio. Yeah, unless you got the shmoney, I would say, as that chatter said, Europe is probably a little bit better. But even Europe is very expensive too. I don't fucking know, dude. Chemical engineering is a good field, I think. I don't know exactly what the salaries look like. Columbus is the fastest growing city in the USA. Oh my God, here we got the Ohio chatters chirping. Respect. Midwest isn't expensive. Yeah, but then it's the fucking Midwest. Chatter, go to New Mexico and cook meth. He's an engineer, so we can afford it. I mean, considering that I have a aerospace and mechanical engineer in my family who has a hard time saving any money whatsoever. LA is not exactly hospitable.
Of the aisle.
If Joe Biden, as some press reports have it, is urging the Israelis not to retaliate at all.
Yeah, this guy is a fucking freakazoid, dude. I mean, look, my man is just out of control. He's just like, yep, that's right. I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. It's time to glass Iran. It's time to glass Tehran. They have been sitting there unglassed for far too fucking long. John Bolton is a war criminal and a genocidal pervert. Why the fuck is he talking about this issue? It is like, it just doesn't make sense, bro. You are literally a psycho.
He is an embarrassment to the United States.
On Capitol Hill, lawmakers are now considering a new military aid package for Israel. A vote could come as soon as this week. Iran's government this weekend sent a message to the White House suggesting they were finished after their attack late Saturday, saying they consider this matter closed. The Biden administration is making the case that this was a success for Israel, suggesting retaliation may not be necessary.
For more on- yeah, it's also just a way to flex, like to be like, a lot of the messaging I've seen, including from Philip DeFranco, surprisingly, well, I guess unsurprisingly, was like Iran did like this laughably silly thing. They got fucking owned. And to the people who are saying like Iran got owned super hard, dude, by fucking having all their missiles be intercepted, like I guess the question I have is like, why do you think they telegraphed that they were going to strike Israeli military targets in like relatively remote locations? And also, like, do you think they're really stupid and that's the reason why they did that? Or do you think that they're like relatively rational actors, whether you agree with them or not? And I certainly don't agree with the domestic policies in Iran either, by the way, that it is understandable that they were going to retaliate and wanted to do it in the most limited fashion possible to basically maintain their position in the region as a regional actor that wanted to retaliate for having its sovereignty be violated. So, you know, for people who are saying, though, like, yeah, Iran is about to fuck around and find out, or rather like that, yeah, Iran got fucking owned here. Good. That's great. Fine. Yeah, Iran got owned. Israel does not need to retaliate now. So that's great. That's my take. By the way, maybe you'll remember I mentioned the court order, the state report on the aid distribution after petition by Geisha and others. They gave their report today, but it's pretty boring. They just blame Hamas. I don't know what I expected, but they're dragging their feet for Geisha's response due in 5 days. I can link an article on it, but it's not worthwhile for stream. Yeah, it's all good. That take of Iran getting owned is so America-coded too. Our defense systems are the best type vibes, but it is true. Our defense systems are the fucking best. That part is definitely true. Okay? I'm sorry. It is a marvel. I am not like a war pervert by any means, but it is kind of a fucking marvel to watch, like, you know, the most expensive fireworks show of all time when you have like genuine drones and ballistic missiles and cruise missiles getting fucking taken out in the middle of the night sky like shooting stars. I could really use a wish right now. I think it's I genuinely think that defensive capabilities such as that, it just sucks because it's still defending an apartheid regime, but defensive capabilities such as that are technological marvels and objectively good in general. That is a real defensive weapon. So yeah. Overall, though, when you look at it, when you isolate it from like what it's defending and think about like the tech capabilities, it is not, I mean, it is awe-inspiring to a certain degree. What is this? I think they're just straight up denying that Iran gave a warning. Because they didn't exactly say when or where they were going to hit. Iran says it gave warning before attacking Israel. U.S. says that is not true. Wait, what? They did. Through Turkish, Jordanian, and Iraqi officials said on Sunday that Iran gave wide notice days before his drone and missiles attack on Israel. But U.S. officials said Tehran did not warn Washington that it was aiming to cause significant damage. Yeah, this is just posturing. This is just PR posturing. First of all, if they told Turkey, Jordan, and Iraq, do you think that conversation is a one-sided conversation? Yeah, they told Turkey and they were like, Binky promise. Bro, Binky promise, bro. Do not tell this to America, okay? Allah, wallah, say wallahi. Say wallahi, bro. We are not telling America. NATO, you are a NATO country with American military bases, but say wallahi, bro, do not tell America. Is that what was going on? So why did America use Turkey as an envoy? Why did America use Turkey as a mediator if they're so one-sided on this effort? That's Arab, not Persian. Come on. I was trying to do my Persian. This is horrible. We don't say wallahi. Okay, my bad. Here, okay. What is the Persian one? Okay. Turkey, do not tell Patrick Bet David. No, Patrick Bet David's accent is busted. It's not fucking Persian or Iranian at all. Because the U.S. trusts Turkey and Iran knows it? No, of course they fucking told Turkey, Jordan, and Iraq that missiles were going to go over their fucking airspace and that they shouldn't interfere because it's not actually going directly at, it's not going to touch them. And it's not Turkish airspace, but like they're told Turkey so that they could inform America. That's it. Iran launched hundreds of drones and missiles on Saturday in a retaliatory strike after a suspected Israeli strike on its embassy compound in Syria. Most of the drones were down before reaching Israeli territory, though a young girl was critically injured and there were widespread concerns for further escalation. Hossein Amirabdullahian said on Sunday that Iran gave neighboring countries and Israel's ally, the United States, 72 hours notice that it would launch the strikes. Turkey's foreign ministry said it has spoken to both Washington and Tehran before the attack, adding it had conveyed messages as an intermediary to be sure reactions were proportionate. So why did Biden leave his Delaware vacation home early before Iran launched its attack? Is he just, can he see the future? Did he know that it was going to happen somehow in his mind? Or were they given advance notice? Turks did many genocide against the people of Armenia and Kurds, but you still criticizing Israel because they did genocide. What a hypocrite. Yeah, famously, following since 2020, and yet hasn't heard me talk about Turks fucking melting Kurds in the northern Syrian corridor or internally, and of course has never heard me. I just did it all for some attention, dude. At least he admitted it. Okay, good one. Yes, brother. I have talked about the Armenian genocide quite extensively. All right, let's continue. I feel like normies can't understand the realpolitik of foreign policy and why we can understand the motivations of Hamas, Ansar Allah in Yemen and Iran, while at the same time despise their domestic politics and want people to have more liberal freedoms. Everything has to be this postmodern binary, good versus evil. That postmodern binary benefits American foreign policy. Don't think about them as like rational actors making decisions in the interest of self-preservation, and think about them as violent, barbaric monsters. And that's how colonial violence has been justified internally in perpetuity. Throughout history, when there were always pussies, there were always libtards throughout history that were like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be butchering the fucking indigenous population here. What the fuck are we doing? How do you silence those pussies? By telling them, no, you don't understand, actually. The conquistadors are actually valid in their actions because the Aztecs are fucking killing each other. They're cannibals. Okay? You got to tell the libtards to shut the fuck up somehow. Colonial violence and imperialism has it needs a justification mechanism for every single aspect of the in-group. That's how you do it. You just say they're barbaric, violent monsters and they need to be quelled. And that's how you do it in this circumstance for the libtards that also need to, for the libtards that are soft in heart, that think like, oh yeah, gay people do deserve rights, actually, and women should have autonomy. How do you tell those guys that, like, no, they need to be melted? By telling them that, you know, the mullah regime is really, really fucking barbaric and brutal, which is true. So we have to be even more barbaric and brutal by just killing them. Anyway, reports now saying, too, Israel's response to Iran coming very soon. The strikes are just starting in Lebanon a few minutes ago. We'll see. Check out this pure Hasbara propaganda from an Iranian woman. People eating this up.
Iranian woman.
Oh, hell yeah. This is my... Dude. My people yearn for freedom. President Biden, please glass Iran. My people yearn for freedom is my favorite take.
Hi. Iranian woman here. It's become very apparent that you haven't been listening to anything that we've had to say for the past 2 years. But I was wondering if you could just lend me a few minutes of your time in this ungodly hour to hear us now.
What are people saying? I understand the frustration, but Westerners not speaking up on domestic Iranian issues, but taking note on issues their wider international impact is largely due to exposure is in the news. I mean, I'm Nigerian, and I remember when the world took note when the Chibok girls were kidnapped, but I doubt people now would be aware that it's happened dozens of times since then. Recently, hundreds of children were abducted from primary schools.
Watch over the past 24 hours people clambering onto the internet to exclaim that Iran has the right to defend itself. In what capacity have you distorted the story to make the Islamic Republic the victim?
Bro, I love diaspora Iranians, bro. Persians. It's just like it's funny because they don't understand that, like, no one views you like that. Okay? It's the I'm not black, I'm Dominican version of menopolitics in some respects. It's like nobody thinks that, okay? No racist person ever makes that distinction, dumbass. Like, no one is going, yeah, you know what? Actually, you're right. We should be separating the Islamic mullah regime from the Iranian people. Like, when bombs start flying, they don't give a fuck, okay? The bombs don't discriminately target not your fucking family members that still live there, if there are any, okay, that still live in Iran, okay, and avoid your family members and only fucking kill the bad guys. That's not how this works. Sanctions don't target just the oppressive mullahs. As a matter of fact, they harden the position of the reactionary elements in the country. Okay? It doesn't work that way. You should probably learn your own history specifically because that is how Iran got to the theocratic position that it got to from the jump. That's how Iran became what it is now.
That's I think what we're most curious about. When we were screaming for the past 2 years that they were lynching us, where were you? When we were screaming that they were killing Iranian women for not wearing a hijab, where were you? When they were lynching Iranian men from cranes for protesting, where were you? When we were explaining that this is a terrorist occupying force,
Bro, you literally live in England. Like, oh my God.
where were you? But all of a sudden, everyone's graduated from Instagram School of Law to say that this is a violation of international law and Iran has the right to defend itself. First of all, you're not talking about Iran, you're talking about the Islamic Republic. What the Islamic Republic does is not a reflection of the Iranian people. We've been clear about what we want, which is peace. Second of all, you may have discovered the Middle East yesterday, but the Middle East didn't start existing yesterday. If you want to talk about an act of war, just a few days ago, a federal court determined that the attacks on Israeli embassies and Jewish centers in Argentina were conducted by the Islamic Republic and Hezbollah. That was in the 90s. That was in the 90s. Was that an act of war? How about the terror proxies that the Islamic Republic has created to foster regional instability? What did you think that they were there for? What did you think Hezbollah was there for? Hamas, Houthis, the militia groups in Iraq and Syria. Did you think that they were there to instigate a system of...
How much do you think this person earns doing this? $0.00, bro. This is like, listen, I hear this all the time, okay? I live in Los Angeles. So let me tell you something. I live in LA. I hear this a lot for free, okay? I hear this regularly with regular frequency for free. It's free 99, baby. This is classic diaspora politics. It's like asking a Cuban living in Miami over the age of like 35 what they think about Castro or socialism. Their take is going to be, you know, bomb Cuba and let God sort it out.
of public schooling, education, to feed the poor, house the unhoused. What did you think that they were there for? Is that an act of war? Was October 7th an act of war? Are the rockets that Hezbollah fires into northern Israel on a near daily basis an act of war? And so when these senior IRGC commanders meet up with Hezbollah in a IRGC military base, okay, not an Iranian embassy, and Israel strikes, your response is to say that that is an act of war. If you had listened to us for the past 2 years...
When are you covering non-TikTok news? Never. This is a TikTok only broadcast, chatter. My calculus teacher was Persian. She was a lib, but not a big fan of Iran. You don't have to, like, listen. I think you guys know this by now, am not a big fan of the domestic policies of the Islamic Republic, okay, of the current Iranian administration. After all, I am an advocate for queer rights, women's bodily autonomy, that sort of thing, right? And so obviously theocracies are not exactly something that I am a fan of, okay? Something that I am in favor of. Having said that, however, this has nothing to do with that. Like, this conversation between Iran and Israel has nothing to do with that. It's not being done on the basis of like the Iranian theocracy. It's not being done for that reason. Okay? Where were you? I mean, I've criticized the Iranian administration quite a bit. It is ridiculous to expect that a belligerent state in the region can keep striking with increasing intensity at other targets while in the midst of doing an ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign and expect no retaliation from regional actors, especially when said belligerent apartheid regime has demonstrated time and time again that they only respond to force, that they only back down when they are met with even force. This is entirely in the hands of Israel. Israel does not want to do democracy or diplomacy with any of the regional actors that it has declared a foreign adversary. Okay? You're talking like Iran has not fucked with Israel before the embassy attack. It is ridiculous to act like Israel's embassy attack is valid. It's not. It is not a valid attack. It is not valid under international law, and it is not even a strategically valuable target. It is greatly expanding the conflict for Israel. It's making it harder for them. The only reason why you would do that is if you are a despotic fascist who is very horny to stay in power in his war cabinet, even though he is deeply unpopular, and trying to expand on the conflict as best as possible so he continues remaining in power and he doesn't get fucking fired and then go to jail for his ongoing corruption court case. That's it. Your hands are already tied. If you're Israel, if you're the war cabinet, you're already too busy trying to do an ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza. Why the fuck would you go and then directly strike Iranian soil? Why the fuck would you go and directly strike Iranian soil to invoke some kind of retaliation or response from them with hopes that you will bring America into the fold and make and broaden the conflict to a degree that makes it even less safe for the Israeli citizens, to a degree where the obvious regional actor is going to retaliate? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Just FYI, Alika Laban, loves to clip things out of context to her 400K IG following. She would likely do this with this segment. I mean, what? Okay, who cares?
Much less the past 45 years. You'd know that Iranians don't want war with Israel. We want peace with Israel. Iranian people inside of Iran have come out and said this over and over and over again. It's you that wants war with Israel. It's your hatred for Israel and your hatred for Jews that's pulling us into a war that we didn't ask for. Have we not suffered enough for the past 45 years that we now have to be used as pawns for your fantasies about war with Israel? Leave us alone. We don't want that. So if you want to support the Islamic Republic in putting Iranians' lives at risk and everyone's lives at risk, they just killed a 10-year-old Bedouin boy for this. Is that what you wanted?
It was a girl, I think. Oh, you're British for fuck's sake? I think she's in America. It says Elika in America. Perhaps if the Iranian people are upset, they should stand up against the regime. That's crazy. Bro, that's an insane expectation. You have no idea what it's like to live in Iran and try to push back against your authoritarian government while your authoritarian government is able to position themselves as a defender against Western imperialism. Okay? Israel's relentless actions, Israel's genocide is a gift to the mullahs. If you want to think about it from that perspective, the entire reason why the Iranian theocracy exists is because of American intervention. Doing more of the same reasons why they got into power is a ridiculous way to try and solve the problem. What's the solution? Diplomacy. That's it. It's also really funny to just sit at the comfort of your home and be like, why aren't they fighting hard enough against their government? I don't know. Maybe because it makes it maybe because it hardens their position, especially in the broader Iranian public's eyes, that they are true defenders against Western imperialism. Because they are. The Iranian resistance does phenomenal propaganda for the Iranian regime in general. If you have an issue with that, you should try to solve the conflict from the area that you can, which is our allies. not by hardening their position further, by increasing sanctions, by creating economic instability and volatility that ends up harming Iranian people. They fight back all the time. They protest all the fucking time. It's so silly to be like, yeah, I live in America. Why don't you fight back against your government? You live in America. You don't even have fucking health care. You know? Think about it like that. Do you really think that an all-out war will happen between Iraq and Iran? I live in Iraq. I'm Kurdish. I'm really scared if it does happen in Iraq, we'll get involved and get fucked. A missile already hit Iraq and Holler at a mountain of Kurik in our capital city in Baghdad. I've asked this multiple times. Sorry. But I really want to know your opinion. I don't know. Many anti-IRI people in Iran here correctly don't like the Israeli apartheid and see it as such. Exactly. People said this about the Houthis too. They were like, the Ansar Allah, the Houthis are bad guys. The Houthis are bad guys. It's like, okay. Well, now they're not seen as such. Do you want to know why? Do you know how you can very easily and very quickly position yourself as like the good guys when there's a much larger evil happening in the fucking region, not that far away from you, and you stand against that? That's it. That's it. Mr. Beast commented on our TikTok saying real, by the way. Yeah, I saw Mr. Beast commenting on the Philip DeFranco TikTok with a reel too. It's getting real political. Iranian here, you have to realize how much the diaspora and the vast majority of people in Iran resent the regime. This girl is brain dead, but there's a lot of cognitive dissonance when shit like this happens because the resentment is so set in. You just flail wildly with takes like this. Yeah. Mr. Beast is Persian confirmed. Yes, I am Persian, not Iranian. I do not like the Iranian government. It's the same principle behind Hamas and any kind of Palestinian resistance, okay? There would be no need for them to exist if Israel was not conducting a genocide, if Israel was not an apartheid state. You know what I mean? In order to end any kind of resistance against your unjustifiable and oppressive structures, you have to end the apartheid first and then deal with the fallout as though they are full-blown citizens. That's it. But anyway, Iranian Foreign Ministry Hossein Amir Abdullahian said on Sunday that Iran gave neighboring countries and Israel's ally, the United States, 72 hours notice. Turkey's foreign ministry said it has spoken to both Washington and Tehran before the attack, adding that it had conveyed messages as an intermediary to be sure the reactions were proportionate. Iran said the reaction would be a response to Israel's attack on its embassy in Damascus and that it would not go beyond this. We were aware of the possibilities. Developments were not a surprise, said a Turkish diplomatic source. One senior official of U.S. President Joe Biden's administration denied Amir Abdullahian's statement, saying Washington did not have contact with Iran through Swiss intermediaries, but did not get a notice 72 hours or they did have a contact through Swiss intermediaries, but did not get a 72-hour notice. That is absolutely not true, the official said. They did not give a notification, nor did they give any sense of these will be the targets, so evacuate them. Tehran sent the United States a message only after the strikes began, and the intent was to be highly destructive, said the official, adding that Iran's claim of a widespread warning may be an attempt to compensate for the lack of any major damage from the attack. We received a message from the Iranians as this was ongoing through the Swiss. This was basically suggesting that they were finished after this, but this was still an ongoing attack. So that was their message to us, the U.S. official said. What is this? House Republican leaders are considering adding a TikTok ban to the foreign aid bill. According to multiple sources involved in the talks, nothing is decided. Nothing is close to done. Conference meeting tonight at 5:30 p. Expect Johnson to run through some options tonight. Let's go, dude. Are the Houthis still blocking ships? Yes. IDF chief of staff says Israel will respond to the Iranian missile attack. So this is why I said it is all in the hands of Israel now, okay? If Israel chooses to attack Iranian soil directly, then they will continue along with the interest of trying to expand the conflict, and bring the United States into the conflict. Gallant said they have no choice but to retaliate. It is, like I said, if they continue on hitting proxies in Syria, hitting proxies in Iraq, military bases and things of that nature, that's one thing. If they continue taking pot shots at Lebanon as they have, that's one thing. If they hit Iranian soil, that's an entirely different thing. I need you guys to understand something. What is this? Political expert here. This is sure the only way to create lasting peace in the Middle East is by returning the whole region to the rightful rulers, i.e. Hindus, by establishing a neo-Mitanni Hindu empire. Perhaps Baghdad, which was named after King Bhagadatta, could be its capital. Yeah. So crazy, but maybe crazy is what we need right now. I love this, dude. Dude, I love India Lion too, sir. Okay? Dude, oh God, Indian hogs are my favorite. I swear to God. Modi's burner. This will happen tomorrow. Oh, at least it's unique. It's refreshing to see like just a totally nutty take. You know what I mean? It's refreshing to see a totally insane take that you haven't seen before. I love that. Exotic racism? No, literally, it's fucking awesome. Anyway, mildest take from the average Hindu nationalist. By the way, we Indian leftists have to deal with them every day wherever we go on Twitter. Isn't this such a perfect demonstration, though, of like hogs having universal hog takes? Like, isn't this such a perfect demonstration that like hogs somehow find the funniest and most creative way to demonstrate their hog-like attitude? That's it. It's universal hog rights for all. Okay. I love this shit. Wait, what the fuck? Hindus stand with the Jewish community. Swastika stands with the Star of David. India stands with Israel. Yeah. While composing is so watched, Hindu nationalists are on the come up. Indian hogs are even worse than probably Turkish hogs. Yeah, I mean, Turkish hogs are furries, so it's funny. Turkish ultra-nationalists love fucking talking about how they're wolves and shit and posting sexy ass wolves. Indian hogs go straight for the fucking swastika. You're literally a lawyer at the Supreme Court, man. Stop with this nonsense and go do something productive. Oh. Some BJP officials were unironically calling for invading Mecca. These people are on another level. It's awesome. They're on an awesome level. Another example of Elon Musk making Twitter great again. This is phenomenal politics. This is right in the pocket of extremely my shit, okay? Stop this nonsense is such an Indian thing to say because normally you'd say bakwas, which means nonsense in Hindi. Oh, it's so good. All right, let's get back to it. So, like I said, it is entirely in the hands of Israel now. The ball's in Israel's court. And let me tell you, they're fucking J.R. Smith style shooters out here. They don't give a fuck about contested shots. They're fucking opening up. So we'll see what happens. I really, really, really hope that they somehow magically find restraint in an interest of self-preservation, but who knows?
On the delicate balance, the U.S. is trying to strike between defending Israel and avoiding a wider war.
You have not seen the worst of Indian Twitter. We are Aryan, not any unga bunga, and we don't look like this, and we were fair from the start. Only the delete African who came from Africa to work in our fields as laborers are might be they were South Indian migrant who shifted our places of work in the field. We are North Indian, not like you blackish African South Indian. We don't have any relationship with you. North Indian, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, Russian. We are all Aryans. You are African. Have proper knowledge how this present Indian landscape formed. In whole world, only South Indian, African are black. It's so sick. This is, dude, God. This is what, like, you know how racist Americans will, like, unearth new tomes of racism to find like old terminology or whatever, where they dust off like a book and they find like old terminology to like bring back into the fray. This is what they should be focusing on instead. This is awesome. Just like esoteric racism from India in like like South North Indian dynamics, still with its own version of colorism as well. It's great. As a Pakistani North Indian person with 1,000 times more Indo-Aryan DNA, this asshole doesn't represent the North Indian diaspora. He's partially right. Despite being unhinged, North African Indians are 30% steppe in ancestry, but it's because they were invaded. Funny part is Modi's foreign ministry still can't be openly hostile to Gaza due to our colonial past. India hasn't even put Hamas on a terrorist list. Fucking Hindutva hogs can't even get their man to get crazy. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Modi is weirdly inconsistent on the Palestine issue. No, that is true. Because of India's colonial past and like Israel being a British operation, there's this weird dynamic that like while Palestinians are seen as like Muslims in general and Modi fucking hates that shit, there's also the other side of this conversation. That's why Modi, I'm pretty sure, fucking literally didn't Modi meet with like hold on, didn't Modi like visit the West Bank or some shit? Yeah. Dude, yeah, see? Modi visits Ramallah, backs independent Palestine state. Dude. Oh, that's so funny. While this was happening, weren't they like literally shutting off the fucking electricity in Kashmir too? Like, he's like a little bit column A, a little bit column B. You know what I mean? This is probably a vestige of the European colonial period of Africa when the Euros imported Indians to Africa as middle-class managers during the Indian slave trade. Yeah, this is in 2018. I know. I know. This is Emir Gülerhan. Thank you for the 50 gifted subs, allowing 50 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour, by the way. Let me run that real quick. Let me run that shit up real quick. At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free. Modi is unofficially a sock them. This is why, as an Indian living in a third world country like Canada, is so much better than living in a Western civilization like India. But we get abused every day with a top of the hour ad break. The far right part of Modi's coalition called him Maulana Modi for doing this and put up his pigs in skull caps. Funny as shit. Yeah. God, I love I love politics in this part of the planet, okay? Obviously, we're so Western centric in our analysis because I live in America and I talk primarily about American politics, American foreign policy. But like India as a standalone entity and its foreign policy and its domestic policies are so funny to think about from our side of the world. It's awesome. Anyway. All right. Let's move on. But I am offering full support to that guy that wants to make the entirety of the MENA region Indian again. I think that's what we need to do. It's the best. It's for the best, guys. I think that's what we need to do. All right. So the IDF chief of staff says Israel will respond to the Iranian missile attacks. General gives clearest confirmation yet that Israel will hit back, but it's unclear what form of response it will take. Israel's top generals have said the country will respond to Iran's missile and drone attack, but it remains unclear what the response is going to look like. U.S. officials said on Monday that some form of counter to Iran's attack, which involved more than 300 missiles and drones, was almost inevitable, but the Biden administration was still hoping it would be a limited counterstrike and not aimed at Iranian territory. The IDF chief of staff, Herzi Halevi, gave the clearest confirmation so far that the attack that Israel will strike back. What's really fascinating is Gantz and Eisenkot, who, for context, basically Gantz is number 2, were in favor of an immediate military response to Iran in the war cabinet, and Netanyahu, with others, was the one who opposed it since casualties weren't fully reported yet. Yeah. U.S. urges Israel to be careful and strategic regarding the response to the Iran attack. And it was Benny Gantz, Yoav Gallant, and Benjamin Netanyahu that have like full-blown control over what they do as far as retaliation. I suspect Gantz and Eisenkot claimed the longer Israel waits, the harder it will be to get international legitimacy for the counterattack. They also claimed that an immediate counterattack as the Iranian drones were still making their way to Israel would likely prevent Iran from launching another attack in response and would end the exchange of attacks. Netanyahu and other members of the war cabinet opposed the idea, mainly because it wasn't clear yet whether the Iranian attack caused any damages or casualties, the officials said. Yeah, this is the official Iranian Parliamentary National Security Commission says the country is ready to use a weapon we have never used before if Israel launches a retaliatory attack, which I assume would be the sound barrier breaking missiles that they have. That would be much harder to intercept, if not impossible. I don't think they mean a nuke. No, they mean nukes? No, I don't think they mean a nuke. I said Jewish space lasers? Yeah. We found the Jewish space lasers and intercepted them. We will use it against Israel. One official said Netanyahu also wanted to wait for his phone call with President Biden. There were several options for retaliation, but the call stopped it. This train has left the station, and now we can take a breath to think about it again, the official said. Do you think Iran has nukes? I don't know. I do know that Israel definitely has nukes. I don't know if Iran has nukes. I would like to live in a world where I don't know if they have nukes or not. I would like to continue not knowing. Do you have any Jewish friends? Yes, I have a shit ton of Jewish friends. I live in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is, I believe, the second highest Jewish population city on the planet after New York City. I did that for attention too. It's all good. Duck chatter. Yeah, not a Ben chatter, but a duck chatter. Or third. Los Angeles is the third highest Jewish population city on the planet. New York City is number 1. I guess Tel Aviv would be number 2. Anyway. What is this? Oh, dude. Okay, we'll cover this in a second. Yeah, at least chatters that admit they did it for attention are much better than chatters who are... Let me tell you something. Chatters who admit that they did it for attention are significantly better than chatters who play the facade that, like, they actually are doing this for some real moral reason, okay? I'd much rather have someone immediately and readily admit that they are simply doing this for attention than act like they're doing this because they genuinely wanted to know something or they are just genuinely curious. But yeah, here's Iran's deputy foreign minister Ali Bagheri saying Israeli regime needs to know that in the case of another mistake, they will not have 12 days and the response will be given in seconds, not in days or hours. Iranian deputy foreign minister Ali Bagheri, this time they will not have 12 days. So, I like that the American House Republicans are worrying about the right reasons, though. Worrying about the right things, such as adding TikTok ban to the foreign aid bill. What were they going to say when you tell them all your Jewish friends agree with you, lol? I don't know. What is this? Oh, here's some good news. U.S. Missile Defense Agency selected Lockheed Martin to continue development of Next Generation Interceptor. Thank God. Thank God. Saudi Arabia says it helped defend Israel against Iran. Report. That's not surprising, nor is it shocking. So I don't know what to say about that part. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, this launch of so many missiles, cruise missiles, and drones into Israeli territory will be met with a response, Halevi said. Israel's war cabinet met with the fourth time in the last 2 days. On Monday afternoon, as the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and Benny Gantz, the former defense minister, a centrist Netanyahu rival, again discussed how to walk the tightrope between escalation and deterrence. No, J-Post got that from a fake website claiming to be the royal families. It's been debunked. Oh, that part is not real. The Saudis aren't helping. The Saudis helping is false. The story's source is not a Saudi outlet, though it claims to be. Why is J-Post getting baited so fucking hard? During last night's riot, settlers were caught on camera setting a vehicle on fire in Deir Dobwan, right in front of the soldiers guarding them. This was filmed by the owner's security cameras. As seen in the video, the soldiers don't interfere, contrary to their duty and authority. That's not shocking at all. At first, I thought the story in the Israeli press was true because there's indeed a website called houseofsaud.com with a story that says a source from the Saudi royal family acknowledges Saudi Arabia's supposed involvement. But upon closer inspection, contrary to what the Jerusalem Post says, the website is not the royal family's website. It seems it has, in fact, zero affiliation with the royal family, so this is essentially fake news or a psyop. I don't really care one way or another. Saudi Arabia's allegiance to Israel and the United States of America is obviously, I hope, not called into question here. Even if they weren't involved in intercepting Iranian missiles, they have been involved in intercepting Yemen missiles. So, it's not like this would be it's not like this would be new, is what I mean. Like, this would be in line with what they have done consistently. Regardless, it's not an important part of this conversation at all. So, does Saudi Arabia not like Yemeni people? / sarcasm. Okay. I think, and I've said this for a minute. I think that if Israel attacks like proxy IRGC positions in Syria and Iraq, or maybe in Yemen, or maybe in Lebanon, then this stays relatively tame. If they strike Iranian soil, they are trying to open up a new front and bring America into the battlefield. America has said that they won't defend forward operations on Iranian soil, but that doesn't mean that they won't defend Israel unconditionally when Iran does retaliate. Israel vows to retaliate against Iran for missile attacks. I don't know.
To Israel, the base of Never team is now still functional around the clock. Additionally, we've seen the hits here in the base from the Iranian operation. It's only very light damage to the infrastructure, only 4 hits altogether, 1 next to the runway, 2 in open field, and 1 close to a building that damaged it very lightly. It was still under construction. All of these hits will be corrected very soon. This base is operational around the clock as it was during Iran protection operation, as it does today. From this base, airplanes took off to protect the state of Israel. IDF altogether is still ready to protect the state of Israel. We are preparing and following any developments in the north during operational activity next to the fence at the night. Our protection, while we were protecting, 4 of the IDF soldiers were hit by an explosion we are still looking into. Right afterwards, we've evacuated them quickly while being protected both from the air and from the sea. 1 was severely injured and was taken to a hospital to be treated there. From here, I wish quick recovery to all those who were injured. The IDF planes throughout the night attacked several points of Hezbollah in the south of Lebanon. In Gaza, the IDF forces are operating in the center of the Gaza Strip. Up till this moment, we have killed dozens of terrorists and hurt terror infrastructure. Last night, at about midnight, we have decided, after an operational evaluation, to no longer keep the limitations on the home front. We must make it clear that the safety of the civilians is the most important thing. I know that the implications over the work, economy, children, home, etc., are very significant, and therefore we let down limitations as soon as we can. Yesterday, in light of the defense situation, we could only do it very close to midnight, only very near midnight. If we could have done it earlier, we would have done so.
I think Benjamin Netanyahu not striking back against Iran instantly and waiting for America, a phone conversation with Joe Biden, also once again reaffirms my position from the jump that yes, contrary to what liberals posture online, Joseph Robinette Biden could have done infinitely more to restrain Israel from the jump. This is why anyone and everyone that acted as though America is small bean in this small bean Israel ethnic cleansing campaign had nothing to do with it and could not stop Israel from doing ethnic cleansing was wrong. Okay? Completely fucking wrong. When America says jump, Israel says how high, because without American weapons, without America constantly rearming Israel's defenses, Israel would not be able to defend itself. Okay? Israel would also not be able to do offensive campaigns without being able to defend themselves. Israel would not be able to attack an Iranian embassy in Damascus without knowing full well that America will defend it unconditionally if Iran retaliates. Of course, when Iran retaliates, America is going to defend Israel. That's it. Angry old gamer down with Islam. Sure, brother. Good luck. Is a client-state relationship, but for some reason we're the client? We are not. Kind of stupid question, but do you think right now Trump as president would be in war with Iran? He was bombing the shit out of them at one point. Yeah, I don't know how Trump would behave, but I have no reason to believe that he wouldn't be even more violent and also urging to fucking blow up Iran immediately.
Over the weekend, Iran launched a large-scale attack on Israel. Over 350 ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, armed drones, and rockets were fired from Iranian soil, as well as Iraq, Yemen, and Lebanon, towards the state of Israel. Across the skies of the Middle East, a coalition was activated to counter this attack, marking the start of the IDF's Operation Iron Shield. The Israel Defense Forces...
He does sound exactly like Eran Morad. Like 100%. It is crazy. Colonel Eran Morad.
Together with the United States Central Command, the British and the French armed forces, and other partners operated together in real time in the air, on the ground, and at sea. Defense systems were activated, the threats were intercepted, and Iran's attack on Israel...
It's funny because, like, the more they flex about how dope their defenses are, the less reason they have to attack Iran directly. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think they understand that, maybe, or maybe they do understand it, and that's why they're saying that they defended Iran, defended against the Iranian threat perfectly. It's like, yeah, dude, the more you say to everybody that, like, you did a phenomenal job of thwarting this attack from Iran, the more, the less justification you have for invading Iran or doing any bombing campaigns on Iranian soil. So ultimately, this isn't a bad thing. It could mean that they are going to have a more restrained retaliation. But who knows?
Failed. Operation Iron Shield proved the strength of our ironclad cooperation. I want to thank all our international partners who stood up to Iran's aggression. Iran's attack has created new opportunities for cooperation in the Middle East. We are closely assessing the situation. We remain at our highest level of readiness. Iran will face the consequences for its actions. We will choose our response accordingly. The IDF remains ready to counter any threat from Iran and its terror proxies as we continue our mission to defend the state of Israel.
Yeah. Created new opportunities for cooperation in the Middle East, and that Iran will face consequences for his actions. What they're talking about is, of course, like with other regional, like Gulf state actors and whatnot. Here's a White House spokesperson, John Kirby, on unsubstantiated rumors.
To correct the record on a few points that have come out in the last several hours.
He's saying that Iran informing Turkey is not the same as Iran informing the United States of America by their own chosen proxy, Switzerland, which is bullshit. You know what I mean?
I've seen reporting that the Iranians meant to fail. That this spectacular and embarrassing failure was all by design. I've also seen Iran say that they provided early warning to help Israel prepare its defenses and limit any potential damage. All of this is categorically false. To coin the phrase from the president, or steal a phrase from the president, it's malarkey. This attack failed because it was defeated by Israel, by the United States, and by a coalition of other partners committed to Israel's defense. So let's be straight. Given the scale of this attack, Iran's intent was clearly to cause significant destruction and casualties. Iranian leaders launched so many missiles and other munitions because they knew that many were going to be defeated. But the aim was to get as many of them through Israel's defenses as possible. Now, I've also seen this speculation about messages passed forth and warnings. We did receive messages from Iran, and they received messages from us too. But there was never any message to us or to anyone else on the time frame, the targets, or the type of response. In fact, before yesterday, it was presumed that 100 ballistic missiles might overwhelm even the best defensive systems. That was Iran's intent, and as you all saw for yourself, it didn't work. This attack was defeated thanks to our preparations, to a coalition of committed partners, and to Israel's remarkable defensive systems. And I want to focus on that last point for just a moment. Israel today is in a far stronger strategic position than it was only a few days ago. Iran's vaunted missile program, something it has used to threaten Israel in the region, proved to be far less effective. Israel's defenses, on the other hand, proved even better than many had long assumed. Israel's defense was strengthened by a coalition of countries led by the United States and working together. The United States has never before so extensively and so directly defended Israel from attack. To ensure
Yeah, you don't understand. Like, things are really good. Things are really, really good. All right, let's go to CNN to see what Jake Tapper has to say.
In any Israeli counterattack directly on Iran. CNN's Jeremy Diamond is in Tel Aviv. And Jeremy, the Israeli War Cabinet meeting ended hours ago. How should we read the fact that there has been no public announcement yet over any decision to counterattack?
Your new book, which is just out, An Unfinished Love.
Well, Jake, it's very interesting because yesterday when the War Cabinet met for nearly 5 hours, we were quickly told that there had been no decision made. Today, after nearly 3 hours of meetings, Israeli officials have been quiet about whether or not a decision was made. What I was told, though, by one Israeli official is that the sense coming out of this War Cabinet meeting was that a swift response to this Iranian strike was generally the consensus. And that has really been one of the key points of debate within the War Cabinet, is not only the scale of this response, how big to go, how measured this response should be, but also the timing of it, how quickly Israel should respond. But one thing is clear, is that they are in agreement that a response is necessary. I spoke with the former head of Israeli military intelligence today who said that Israel needs to reestablish deterrence.
Israel does not want that to be a part of their tool in the toolkit, in a future operational friction. We do not want to create some kind of routine. Something needs to be done in order to reestablish the deterrence against Iran.
And so, Jake, now the question just comes down to timing. How quickly will the Israeli military carry out the next steps? Today, the Israeli military's chief of staff, General Herzi Halevi, saying only that Israel will indeed respond to Iran. Jake?
Jeremy, you also have some new reporting about Hamas significantly decreasing the number of hostages it says that they're willing to release. What's that?
That's a weird way to say that Israel killed a shit ton of the
It says
hostages.
actually slashed by more than half the number of hostages that it would be willing to release over the course of 6 weeks. This is according to an Israeli source close to the
Didn't they
negotiations.
literally just
who I
say
just
that
spoke
all
with.
of those
They
hostages
said
are,
that while,
a lot of them are
the
dead?
basis of these negotiations has been 40 hostages released over the course of 6 weeks. This has been the basis of negotiations for months now. And now Hamas is saying that it will only release fewer than 20 hostages over the course of 6 weeks. I even got comment from Bassem Naim, a Hamas spokesman, who told me that Hamas had proposed, quote, releasing 3 captured Israelis each week, but he said that no one is talking about final numbers. I'm also told that Hamas is demanding more Palestinian prisoners be released in exchange for fewer Israeli hostages. They are also asking for more Palestinian prisoners who are serving heavy sentences in Israeli prisons. And the Israeli source who I spoke with said that they believe that Hamas does not want a deal. That is their belief, as they see this the talks effectively backsliding with this demand. And of course, beyond this issue of Palestinian prisoners, there is also the issue of the withdrawal of Israeli troops, a total end to the war. Those are some of the other Hamas demands that they are making right now that Israeli officials simply are not going to go for. Jake?
All right, Jeremy Diamond in Israel for us. Thanks so much. Joining
The fuck is world sport? All right, here's the latest on the negotiations process and how it's like kind of falling apart between Hamas and Israel. By the way, the Israeli political and security elite has decided to react in a clear and decisive manner on the Iranian attack. This is from N12. But the fuck is this? Hamas's response to U.S., Qatar, and Egyptian proposal for a hostage deal included a willingness to release only about 20 hostages in exchange for a 6-week ceasefire, about half the number of hostages originally included in the proposal, a senior Israeli official said. The Israeli official noted that in response, Hamas used ridiculous excuses to explain the reduction in the number of hostages it is willing to release in the first phase of the deal. For example, Hamas claims that some of the hostages included in this part of the deal, women, men over the age of 50, and men in serious medical condition, are not alive or are not under its custody. I don't think that's that ridiculous. Why would that be ridiculous? They have no control over what the fuck happens in Gaza. It has been a war zone for the past 6 months. I don't think that is ridiculous at all. There's also obviously other elements, like including criminal elements and Islamic Jihad and other factions as well, that took some of the hostages. I don't know why would they lie? Like, that makes no sense. Also, Hamas demands higher keys, meaning the release of more Palestinian prisoners for each Israeli hostage, and it increases demand regarding the number of prisoners who serve life sentences that it wants released. The Israeli official noted that in its answer to the mediators, Hamas divides the agreement into several phases and binds them together. Hamas conditions the implementation of the phase 1 by providing international guarantees to the end of the war already in the phase 2 of the deal. That also makes sense. According to the official, Hamas also demands the withdrawal of IDF forces from large areas in the Gaza Strip as early as phase 1, allowing the full return of Palestinians to the north of the enclave and full freedom of movement in the entire enclave starting from phase 1 of the deal. The answer that Hamas gave had far-fetched elements. There is not even a single clause in which Hamas approves or accepts the position of the mediators. Hamas took the entire proposal and changed it from the ground up and doubled and tripled the demands. The conclusion is that Hamas is dragging its feet, is not interested in a deal and a ceasefire, and continues to hope for regional escalation, the Israeli official said. Tell them no and continue with the Rafah plan. It's just, why would Hamas bank on a regional escalation if it wasn't Israel always being the one that strikes first and increases the likelihood of a broader regional conflict. It just doesn't make any sense. Israel's like, yeah, Hamas wants us to fucking attack the Iranian embassy and then broaden this conflict to regional actors, to state actors. And it's like, okay, well then don't do that, right? Like, you're Israel. You don't have to do that. Am I wrong in this? I just don't understand how the Israeli side is like, well, they want us to, broaden this conflict, which we will do by swiftly retaliating against Iran. I don't understand it. What? Hamas opened people around the world to see what? What are you saying? Anyway, do you think this was part of Israel's strategy to weaken Hamas's position in the negotiations so a deal can never be struck because the hostages have already been killed? Like, without hostages, how can a ceasefire come about? I mean, we do know that the Israeli government has an official position of like, it has the official position that like dead hostages are better than any hostages that the enemy takes. So technically, Israel doesn't strike first almost ever. They retaliate like crazy whenever they get attacked, but they don't do it because they feel like it. Yeah, they're just always, yeah, you're right, Chatter. That's why they just always find themselves in a defensive position. You know what I mean? Historically. Like, they're doing defensive apartheid, for example. Like these guys, here, watch. You want to see, hey, you guys want to see some more defensive posturing from the settlers in the West Bank? Here they are defensively lighting a car on fire.
Damn, this guy's good.